Imagine you are driving down the highway at 65 miles per hour. Everything is normal. You are listening to your favorite song, thinking about what you want for dinner, and then, in a split second, the world turns upside down. A car swerves, a deer jumps out, or a distracted driver misses a red light. In that moment, you have less than 100 milliseconds to live. That is faster than the blink of an eye. In fact, a human blink takes about 300 to 400 milliseconds. By the time your brain even realizes you were in an accident, your car has already made 1,000 decisions. It has measured the force of the impact, determined the angle of the crash, and exploded a pillow of gas directly into your face at 200 miles per hour to save your life. But how? How does a machine that is mostly metal and glass know exactly when to trigger an explosion? Why does it not go off when you hit a massive pothole or when you accidentally tap a shopping cart in a parking lot? Today, we are going deep into the hidden world of automotive intelligence to answer the question, how do airbags actually know when to deploy? To understand the magic of the airbag, we first have to understand the sheer violence of a car crash. When a car hitting a wall at 35 miles per hour stops, the occupants inside do not stop. Physics tells us that an object in motion stays in motion. So while your car frame crumples to absorb energy, your body is still flying forward at 35 miles per hour toward the steering wheel, the dashboard, or the windshield. If you hit those hard surfaces, the sudden stop will break bones and cause internal trauma. The airbag's only job is to provide a soft landing by increasing the amount of time it takes for your body to stop. It sounds simple, but the timing has to be perfect. If the airbag deploys 10 milliseconds too late, you have already hit the steering wheel before the bag is full. If it deploys 10 milliseconds too early, the bag will already be deflating by the time you reach it. It is a game of microseconds, where the prize is your life.
The brain of this entire operation is a small black box called the Airbag Control Unit, or the ACU. This little computer sits in the middle of your car, usually under the center console or near the floorboards, because that is the most protected spot in a crash. The ACU is constantly listening. It is connected to a network of sensors scattered all over the vehicle. There are sensors in the front bumper, sensors in the doors for side impacts, and sensors near the wheels. These sensors are not just simple switches. In the old days, back in the 1970s and 1980s, car companies used something called a ball and magnet sensor. It was literally a small metal ball held in place by a magnet inside a tube. If the car hit something hard enough, the force would overcome the magnet, the ball would roll forward, hit an electrical contact, and boom, the airbag would fire. But those were not very smart. They could be tricked by a heavy hammer blow or a weird bump.
Today, we use something far more advanced called MEMS, which stands for Micro-Electro-Mechanical Systems. These are microscopic sensors etched into silicon chips. Inside these chips, there is a tiny microscopic mass held by even tinier springs. When the car decelerates rapidly, that tiny mass moves. As it moves, it changes the electrical capacity of the chip. The ACU reads these changes thousands of times every single second. It is looking for a very specific signature. It is not just looking for a stop, it is looking for a crash.
Think about it. Your car experiences hundreds of different forces every day. You slam the brakes to avoid a cat. You hit a speed bump a little too fast. You drive over a gravel road. All of these things create G-forces. If the airbag went off every time you hit a curb, it would be a disaster. A single airbag replacement can cost anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. So the ACU uses complex algorithms to differentiate between a deploy event and a non-deploy event. It calculates the delta V, which is the change in velocity over time. If the computer sees the car speed drop by 15 to 20 miles per hour in a fraction of a second, it knows this isn't a speed bump. This is a collision. But the sensors don't stop at just measuring speed. Modern cars are incredibly smart. They have weight sensors in the seats to know if someone is actually sitting there. If the passenger seat is empty, the car won't waste money by blowing that airbag. Some cars even have sensors that measure the weight of the passenger to decide how much force to use. If a 200-pound adult is in the seat, the bag might deploy with 100% force. If it is a 100-pound teenager, it might only use 70% force to avoid causing an injury. The car even knows if you are wearing your seatbelt.
If you are buckled in, the computer knows it can wait a few extra milliseconds because the belt is already holding you back. If you aren't buckled, the computer triggers the airbag immediately because you are a loose projectile.
Once the ACU makes the final decision to deploy, which happens in about 15 to 30 milliseconds after the initial impact, it sends an electrical signal to the inflator. Now, here is a common misconception. Airbags are not filled with compressed air. There are no tanks of oxygen or nitrogen waiting to be released. Compressed gas takes up too much space and can leak over time. Instead, an airbag is actually a controlled chemical explosion. Inside the airbag module, there is a small heating element called an igniter. When the electrical signal hits, it creates a spark that sets off a chemical pellet. In many older cars, this chemical was sodium azide. Today, they use various other solid propellants that are more stable. When that pellet burns, it produces a massive amount of nitrogen gas in a very short amount of time. It is like a solid turning into a gas instantly. This gas rushes into the nylon bag, blowing it out of the steering wheel or the dash. This is why you often see a cloud of white powder after an accident. People used to think it was smoke, but it is actually cornstarch or talcum powder. The manufacturers put it inside the bag so it doesn't stick together while it is folded up for 10 years.
The speed of this inflation is staggering. The bag expands at roughly 200 miles per hour. If you are sitting too close to the steering wheel, the bag can actually cause burns or bruises because it is moving so fast. This is why car companies always tell you to keep 10 inches of space between your chest and the wheel. But the bag doesn't stay hard like a balloon. If it did, your head would just bounce off it like a trampoline and hit the seat behind you. If you look at the back of an airbag, you will see two small holes. As soon as your head hits the bag, the pressure forces the gas out of those holes. This absorbs your kinetic energy slowly and brings you to a gentle stop. By the time the dust settles and you realize you have been in a crash, the bag is already starting to go limp.
The engineering that goes into this is almost unbelievable. Every single component must work 100% of the time. There is no error 404 or system reboot allowed when it comes to airbags. They have to survive for 15 or 20 years in extreme heat and freezing cold, vibrating over thousands of miles, and still be ready to fire in a 30-millisecond window.
Since their introduction, airbags have saved over 50,000 lives in the United States alone. They have turned what used to be fatal accidents into minor injuries. We have gone from just having one bag in the steering wheel to cars having 10 or 12 bags, including side curtains, knee airbags, and even center console bags to keep passengers from hitting each other.
So the next time you get into your car, take a look at that little SRS or airbag logo on your steering wheel. Behind that plastic cover is a microscopic weight on a silicon spring, a high-speed computer running thousands of calculations per second, and a chemical reaction ready to happen at the speed of sound. It is a silent guardian, waiting and listening, hoping it never has to do its job, but ready to explode into action the very millisecond you need it most.
Drive safe out there, and remember, science is literally looking out for you every time you turn the key. If you found this breakdown interesting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the tech that runs our world. We will see you in the next one.